Hi, my name is Keith Cooper from Northlight Images, and in this short video I'm going to try and answer the question, what printer should I buy to give the best photo prints? Rather a broad question there. Now, one of the reasons I'm asked this quite often is I've just reviewed this particular printer. This is an Epson XP15000. It's at the lower end of the sort of printers I look at. Some of the printers I cover go right up to large format ones. I've looked at ones 64-inch width, huge great things that you wouldn't even fit in this room. But the common question I get though is, what printer do I need to make great photo prints? And what I'm going to say, a lot of people won't like. Well, the people who sell printers probably won't like. It's the one that gives you good photos that you've produced yourself. It's a tricky one to say, but ignore most of the marketing you see associated with printers. It has but one aim, and that's to sell you a printer. It may be that the printer you've got is perfectly good. Now, it turns out that with this relatively basic printer, you can make very nice looking prints, particularly colour prints. Less on black and white, but that's another matter. So we've got a relatively basic printer here. I'm making nice looking prints. Surely if I got a better printer, I'd get even better looking prints. Well, no, because there are lots of other factors that cover how good your prints will look, and most of them have very little to do with the printer, I'm afraid. First of all, colour management. Now, I'm intending to do a load more videos looking at aspects of things like this. Colour management, monitors, setup, bit of stuff on editing, although that's probably more covered by the articles I write on the Northlight Images website, where there are over 1,200 already. So have a look at the videos, but if you want detail, always check the website articles, because I write a lot more detail in those. But anyway, the basics. If I want to make a great photo print, yeah, the printer works. Almost any modern printer is capable of giving good looking prints if used right. First of all, colour management. You need paper profiles. Now, if you use third-party papers, some companies will provide profiles for you. Profiles give an extra step of certainty in your printing process, and this is about your printing workflow, right from the photography through the editing through to the printing. It's the whole thing. Inks, these are genuine Epson cartridges. If you're interested in quality, sorry to say this, don't use cheap third-party inks. Don't use cheap paper. You get what you pay for. You might note one advantage of getting a more expensive printer is the relative ink costs tend to be less. You pay more for the printer, ink costs per print work out less. But that's something you'll have to juggle with your own finances. But as I said, colour management. Printer profiles is one thing, but the monitor that you edit on, and I'm going to be looking at some monitors in some upcoming videos and reviews, needs to be calibrated. Notice you profile printers, you calibrate monitors. There's a bit more to it than that, but that's essentially what you do. And you need a monitor calibrator. Here's an X-Rite one I use just for testing down here. Plugs in USB device, simple operation. Check it every few months. You don't really need to do it more often unless you're working in a print lab. Check it every so often. Getting your monitor right is a key step in getting your prints right. For example, if your prints come out too dark, it's almost certainly because your monitor's too bright. But calibrate it, and that's one less thing you have to worry about, because you can be much more certain that what you see on the screen bears a resemblance to the prints. Now, you never get a complete match, print screen match, which is why when people say, I want to just print what's on the screen. Yeah, great, but a print and a screen are two different things. So what I always say is when you get a new printer, new paper, anything like that, is start off printing test images on the paper you've got. It's boring, but I've got no emotional connection with any of the images in this. They're just a basic test image. So I've got loads of these on the Northlight website that you can download and that you can use with instructions for them as well as to what to look for in all these different images and that. So use test images, because if you can't produce a great looking picture of a test image, then what hope have you got for your own photos? None at all. Same does go for black and white, but black and white is a slightly different area, because black and white is one area where cheaper printers do generally fail. And unfortunately, if you're really into black and white photography and printing, then you will need a higher end printer than this. I've looked at quite a few, and I always cover the black and white performance as well. But there's black and white test images available as well. But for color printing, always check first with something like that. Because a printer, even one like this, relatively basic printer, can give you really good prints. This is on a smooth art paper where this printer gives really good pictures. Anyway, so we've got color management, paper color management. We've looked at test images, we can print them okay. The next step back along the chain is editing. Now, a lot of people like Lightroom. I personally dislike it greatly, but DxO Photo Lab, Affinity Photo's very good. I even use an old version of Photoshop quite often, CS6, so pretty old version of Photoshop. But there's lots of editing tools. But those editing tools are what you need to produce the images to print. But to get good results from the editing tools, you need to be printing with color profiles, and you need to be working on a calibrated monitor. Doesn't need to be an absolutely top-end monitor, and basically the cheaper the monitor you get, the more it usually benefits from calibration, because top-end monitors often come pretty much spot on to start with. You do still calibrate them to check, but they still come on, they're pretty much out of the box. You can use them. Not that I would, mind you, use a profiling tool, use a calibrator like that. Lastly, we come to the bit that nobody wants to hear. If your photos suck, then your prints will suck. Sorry, it's as blunt as that. Great prints come from great photos that have been edited correctly and printed correctly. It goes all the way down the chain. If your photography isn't up to it, then buying a new printer, no matter how expensive, is not going to make your prints look more polished. It won't work. So that's it really, in a nutshell. I'm going to try and cover quite a few more of these topics in these videos. Please do ask questions, leave comments if you like, because that gives me ideas of what people are interested in, because video is still a relatively new thing for me. I've written stuff for years. Videos I only started doing last year, so please do ask. But there you go, it comes down to it. If your photography is no good, your prints are good. They're not going to be any good. If your photography is good, your editing's good, your printing technique's good, then even a relatively basic printer like this can give you nice looking prints. So hope that's useful. Thank you very much.